I'm Chris Lee of Southeastern 14, joined by Blake Lovell, also of Southeastern 14. We're here to preview SEC basketball for Wednesday, January the 19th. We'll go in order of tip-off. 6:30 Eastern, Mississippi State goes to Florida. No line on this one yet, but Ken Pom has the Gators a 4-point favorite. Blake, what do you think on this one?
Yeah, this is kind of another one of those games. It's kind of in that range where you probably flip your opinion based on where this game's played. I think that's kind of these two teams are probably in that range of those kind of games when you start looking at them. Mississippi State's been the better team to this point, I think, and quite frankly, I think they got a good chance to win this game. But I also look at it and I'm like, well, this sets up nicely for them in terms of coming off the win against Alabama, but they're also a team that really hasn't been, tested all that much on the road. And when they have played away from home, they just haven't won a lot. So I think I'd probably lean towards Florida here because, as we talked about, Florida's in kind of that, digging out of a hole type situation where they were 0-3 and now they beat South Carolina. Now they get to come back for two straight winnable home games against Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. So I think it's a fun game. I think it's a close game the entire way. Be surprised if one team has got a double-digit lead over the other at any point in this game. I just think that's what you expect with these two. And yeah, I think that there's a lot of things here where I think Mississippi State could give them some problems in terms of their size at times and their length. But if Colin Castleton plays well, I think certainly Florida should be able to find a way to win this game. But this is a hard one to predict because I think that these are two teams that have a lot of, similarities in terms of kind of where you expect them to be. But at the same time, that they have been a little inconsistent in different areas. And I think, as we said, Mississippi State doesn't really have a lot of glaring weaknesses, except maybe now it's that they just don't play as well on the road. And so I think that's going to be interesting to see how it plays out.
Well, State's only had one road game. That was at Ole Miss, which it lost by 10 points. And so that's crazy that here we are in the middle of January and you've got a team that's played once on the road.
Yeah, and I think it's a more of an overall picture that I think, though, of the games they played away from home. They lost to Louisville, didn't play well, lost to Colorado State, which, as we said, is a good team. But I just think that any games they played away from home, even the Richmond game, it took overtime to win that one, which Richmond's not a bad team by any means. But, they just haven't played as well, I think, away from home, whether it's been, the true road game. And like you said, this will only be their second one. So, yeah, I think that's probably why I would look at Florida here as a team that's kind of still desperate despite winning at South Carolina. They're still 1-3, and they need to get that turned around. So,
okay, this one to me is probably the most interesting game of the week. LSU going to Alabama. Ken Pom's got Alabama a 1-point favorite. What are we thinking here?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I think Xavier Penson's status. I still think that plays a lot into a game like this, especially because of Alabama's guards and such. But I mean, now we really talk about a team that has put itself in a hole as well, and that's Alabama, who has now lost 3 straight. They're 2-3. They're in must-win mode at this point, and I think that's not a great setup for LSU. And I said it a week ago. I wouldn't be surprised when you look at LSU's schedule here coming up. If their record starts to drop a bit, but I don't think that's going to be an indictment on LSU. I think it's going to be more about the challenge of the schedule, and they are in these scenarios now where Arkansas was kind of in must win. They needed a big signature win. Alabama now needs a big signature win, and they've got them, but I mean at this point where they are, they need another one of those to kind of balance out the loss at Missouri and now losing at Mississippi State. So I think I'd pick Alabama here, but I don't think it's going to be easy. I just don't know. I don't know what to expect from Alabama offensively against this LSU defense. I think that is certainly something that you look at. But as we said, the issue with LSU has been, now especially it only magnifies with Pinson out, is they're just not, they're not a great offensive team. And if they're not making shots, I wonder kind of how that's, on the road against this Alabama team that is going to need everything they can here to try to get this win. I wonder in that scenario how that plays out for LSU. So I'd probably lean towards Alabama here.
Okay, we've got Kentucky, which is a 7-point favorite according to Ken Pom, going to Texas A&M. The Aggies have played one Ken Pom top 50 team this year. That's Arkansas, a game that A&M won at home. Kentucky is just red hot right now. And frankly, I know neither team has played a good schedule. I think those two teams have actually played the easiest schedules in the league according to Ken Pom. But hard to know what to make of A&M. And I think we kind of know what Kentucky is now, but the question to me is, what is A&M?
Yeah, this is one thing A&M has going for them is this is a look-ahead game. And I think you still say that even though A&M's 4-0 in the league. I think you're Kentucky, you're going to be hearing all about this game at Auburn on Saturday, and biggest game and all this other stuff. And it's just like I still think there's something to that potential look ahead, even though I think that's where John Calipari can use this to the advantage. Be like, who are we looking ahead to? We play the two best teams in the conference coming up. Like we play A&M, who's 4-0, Auburn, who's 5-0. So I think that's where at least Kentucky can kind of use that. You're not talking about A&M team that's in the middle of the pack or anything, but on the outside, it is a team that we still don't really know what to make of just yet because, like we said, I mean, we kind of predicted, hey, there's a good chance they could be 4-0 here, the Aggies, and you still don't even know what to think about them.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably going to be a pretty good game. But with Kentucky playing as well as they are, that's where you wonder, could they just get hot again and really just turn this into their type of game? And I just think Kentucky, another one of those teams that has not played necessarily great away from home, and I think there's something to the aspect of Buzz being able to kind of motivate his guys to the point of saying, hey, we have a better league record than they do. We're 4-0. We're 15-2. No one's talking about us. Well, here's your chance. And so yeah, I think this actually could be a pretty good game, even though A&M's not going to get a lot of love or respect. I just think that you learn to respect Buzz Williams teams, and I think that's kind of what you do now in this scenario in this spot. Kentucky coming off such a big high, knowing that they're probably not going to be able to match that in this game in terms of the output that they had against Tennessee, and so I think this may be better than some people think. But then again, it's hard to also ignore the fact that if Kentucky's on, they're probably in a good spot to be able to win this game by double digits. So
Kentucky is what 1-2 away from home, or excuse me, not away from home on the road. But you can argue that was a different Kentucky team. I mean, certainly a different team than the one that lost to Notre Dame on December 11th. LSU on the road. I think Kentucky's gotten better since then, too. Did win its last game on the road at Vanderbilt, won by 12, but that was a 28-point game with 5 minutes to play. So I think that confuses it a little bit more, is just kind of figure out what Kentucky's road profile is at this point.
yeah, and you're going up against a team that no matter who they've beaten, they still have a lot of confidence. So
Yeah.
I think that. Yeah, I just think A&M, I mean, remember, this team hasn't lost a game in a month. I mean, they haven't lost since December the 11th. So there's something to that when you're a team that builds up that kind of confidence, and they're not going to lack any of that coming into this one. So I think this is kind of a game where if Kentucky doesn't come out focused, I think the A&M can win this game. But, with what we saw from Kentucky against Tennessee, it's going to be, I think you're not going to predict that. But I still think it's possible, just based on A&M and kind of they've got a little swagger to them right now, even though maybe they're not getting the respect they think they deserve. So,
well, and in case people had noticed, Xavier Wheeler was back for the 28-point blowout against Tennessee, so that's one more thing in Kentucky's favors. It would appear that the Wildcats will be closer to full strength. So we're taking who at home here, or who on this one? I'm sorry.
I'm taking Kentucky, but
Okay.
I think that it's maybe more interesting than people think, but that's all dependent on what you kind of get from Kentucky. I think you're coming off that huge win. So
Georgia at Auburn. Ken Pom has got Auburn a 24-point favorite. I mean, Georgia's horrible. Auburn's the best team in the league, maybe the best team in the country. And, I mean, I think just the question is, how soon does Auburn empty the benches, and how much of an impact does that have?
Yeah, the only way this is close is if you do have a scenario where Auburn is, and I don't think Bruce Pearl's gonna, if there's anyone that understands these type of scenarios, he understands the emotional aspect of looking ahead to that Kentucky game and knowing this could be the biggest game, for Auburn in a very long time. I don't think he kind of allows them to do that with this Georgia game, and I think that's the only way this thing isn't a 20 plus point win for Auburn is if they're just kind of lackadaisical and just kind of sleepwalking through this game. But I will say this, and there's not a whole lot to say about this game, but when you think about it, and I think there's just a different scenario. But if you really look at Georgia, this team's bad, but find me a game where Georgia's just been blown out. Um, and I mean, and I don't mean in terms of like losing by 15 or something, but if you kind of look at their season, they haven't just been, run off the floor by anyone. And I was kind of laughing. I did a podcast yesterday with Nathan King, who does the 24/7 stuff for Auburn, and he was like, "So that means they're due." I was like, "Well, yeah, that could mean Georgia's due for one of those games where they just get beat by 30 something." But really, when you think about it, they haven't won a lot of games, but they've also not just been completely run off the floor. And so I think that they are a team that, because of that, I mean, maybe they make this interesting. I don't mean in terms of challenging here, but maybe this game is not a 25 point, just complete, trouncing of the other team here. Maybe Georgia keeps this closer than the betting would suggest, the spread. But if Auburn wants to win, if Auburn comes out like Auburn plays, Auburn wins this thing by 25 plus. I just think that's just what you expect now, based on where these two teams are at. So
Yeah, that's a good point. Georgia's lost 3 or 4 games in the 16 to 17 point range, but nothing above that.
yeah, and I mean they've got some close losses too. So I don't think, again, you'd be completely shocked if this game is in any way a close game going into the final 10 minutes or something. But yeah, I think maybe that's something you at least think about if you're wondering how this game plays out from a point differential standpoint.
So the pick is who?
Yeah, I'm going to pick Auburn here, and
Okay.
I think they win by 20 plus. But I'm a little, like I said, I'm a little hesitant on, are they going to win this by 40, just because I don't know if necessarily, with Georgia, they've kept some games close. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay, tell folks about the special partnership we've got with Action 24/7.
Yep. Put the details in the description. You just you sign up, first deposit, they'll match up to $800, and use the code South14, and that'll give yourself that little nice bonus there for the deposit match. And yeah, just click on the link we have in the description of this video, and it'll send you right there.
He's Blake Lovell. I'm Chris Lee. We'll be back to talk about the results of Tuesday night on Wednesday.